We'll be taking like short breaks as the presentation goes on for your questions. So as you think of questions you want to ask, just please know that we will have some different opportunities today for you to ask questions. So let's talk about what a human service transportation plan is. A human service transportation plan is a document, a plan that prioritizes transportation services for funding and implementation. So these are plans that are required by the federal government of transit agencies that use particular streams of federal funding for transportation. And a key component of developing a human service transportation plan is participation by senior citizens, people with disabilities, all of the different transportation and human service providers in a community, whether they be public or nonprofit or private, as well as other members of the public who use transportation services. And I'll add that an HSTP is a document that needs to be updated every 4 years. And so what we're doing as a part of this process, RLS has assisted SARTA with updating its human service transportation plan. SARTA has been engaged with a number of other stakeholders in the community, particularly the START Economic Development Board, in a process called Strengthening START, which pertains to improving and transforming the economy here in Stark County. Okay, so SARTA has a big part to play in that they are tasked with improving connectivity in Stark County. So we want to improve our transportation infrastructure so that people have the connectivity they need to get the places that they need to go for us to be a strong, economically strong community. Improving the connected infrastructure. So to that end, SARTA has a number of goals and in a loose timeline, but the timeline is up here is loose and adaptable. So what are some of the goals that SARTA has as a part of improving our connectivity? SARTA is the leader in establishing a menu of transportation options for Stark County businesses and residents. That's one of the things that they've been working on this year, as well as meeting with different transportation providers to talk about what more can be done and how can we better coordinate transportation resources. So to that end, they've been meeting with taxi services, Uber and Lyft, to try to look at what are the potential partnerships to help us be more connected. Another one of the goals is for SARTA to work with key employers and colleges and universities for whom transportation issues need to be addressed. So we want to make sure that we are matching up employees with work opportunities, and we want to make sure that people have the mobility they need to get to education, so they can be a part of bettering their work situation and contributing to the economy. Over the next couple of years, SARTA will move on from the planning and talking and meeting stages and move into action. So piloting some new transportation services or new strategies that help address those goals. And then later on, 2020 or roughly there, about based on learning from pilot projects, what did we learn and what permanent services or permanent changes would we like to have. And then we'll be taking a look at the effects of the strategies by looking at feedback. So evaluating based on how many people are using new services or changed services, and what sorts of feedback do our stakeholders have on the changes that we've made. Next slide. This is a map, and it's a little bit hard to see, but this is a map of all of SARTA's fixed bus routes overlaid with something called NEO job hubs. See these little light blue areas? These are NEO job hubs. NEO stands for Northeast Ohio, and that comes out of a study that they did to look at where are the zones of business activity and job growth and concentrated jobs. These are some areas of focus for improving the economy and getting people to jobs. This process involved quite a bit of public input that has gone on in 2018. Many of you have been a part of it. As some of you were back here in May when we held our initial public meeting to kick off the study, RLS and Associates has done many interviews with different community stakeholders, different organizations around the county. So not only our transportation providers, but also organizations that are concerned with economic development or mobility. So for example, we talked to the Hall of Fame, because the Hall of Fame is pursuing a very big growth project that's going to provide many jobs. It's going to increase tourism. It's going to increase the programs and services that are available to residents of the county. So, you know, what they have a certain vision about how transportation services can feed into what they're doing. We also talked to, for example, Ohio Means Jobs, which is the agency that helps people find work and improve their work situation. So they had a whole other set of feedback about what can be done on the transportation end to improve workforce. So we'll talk a little bit more later about the stakeholder input that we received. We also conducted a public survey, May through August. We received 1,213 responses to that survey. We were able to get it out to college students at our many colleges and universities in SARTA County before the semester ended. And we'll be talking a little bit about the feedback we observed in the public survey, as well as an onboard passenger survey, which we had surveyors on the buses, and they got 1,286 responses. Finally, there was a Proline passenger survey, where that survey was mailed out to Proline riders, and that was returned by 45 Proline riders.
I don't know what happened there.
Okay, so here's some conclusions from the public input survey.
Wait, okay, nothing.
Let's skip the little graph.
Public input survey is not there.
Okay, that's okay.
We can talk.
Well, we know, so the public input survey, I believe the biggest chunk of respondents were working age individuals, so ages 25 through 59. About a quarter of the responses came from college age individuals. What did we learn? 82% of the people who responded to the public survey said that they drive their own vehicle. We asked them about what types of transportation they use. About 17% said that they use SARTA for transportation, and about almost as many said they bike or walk. There was also a significant number, I think it was 12 or 13%, said they do use Uber or Lyft. So that's a growing transportation option in the community. The conclusions that we drew from that survey were that the respondents prefer to drive, given that 82% of them are driving. Many of them do not know how to use SARTA, and that when people are looking for information about their mobility options, they prefer to talk to a friend, use word of mouth, or go to a website to get transportation information. The thing that the public talked about wanting the most out of their public transit system was there to be more frequency. So frequency means, of course, you go out to the bus stop and does it come every half hour, does it come every 1 hour, more or less. So they're concerned about frequency. They're also concerned about the location of stops being close to the destinations that they need to get to. And about a quarter of the students at the colleges and universities said that parking is a problem for them for going to class. The Proline Rider Survey, that had 45 respondents. Half of the Proline survey respondents indicated that they are retired, but 19% of them are employed. So there are several people who use Proline to get to work. And 70% of Proline riders do not have a vehicle in their household, 61% of them don't have a driver's license. So it's important to note that service is filling a critical need. There are many Proline riders who, if they did not have that service, they wouldn't be able to get to where they need to go. The most common Proline trip purpose is to go to the doctor or another type of medical appointment, followed by social visits and recreation and other trip purposes, and it's important to note that 12% are using it to get to a job. And then the fixed route survey. So I'll spend a little bit of time talking about this graph. So the rider survey asked riders for feedback about a number of things related to SARTA. And up here, just to kind of summarize all these dots here, these dots focus on a thing about SARTA that people have feedback about. So for example, cleanliness on the inside of the bus. People were asked about that. They were asked about the bus is running on time, or how frequent do the buses come. And then you have this up and down axis here, means up here is the things that SARTA can do to improve overall customer satisfaction. And then down here, The closer one of these dots is down here, that means this is a thing that people are concerned about, but it doesn't really relate to the overall satisfaction of SARTA riders. So it's really the things that are further up the scale that really affect somebody's overall experience with SARTA. So while everybody wishes maybe sometimes the buses were a little cleaner, it's down here low, it's not up here, so it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with your overall experience with SARTA. So this one here, this horizontal or east-west axis, this talks about poor performance and good performance. So what do the riders feel SARTA is doing a great job with? What do, down here is what do riders feel like SARTA could do better at? And so, for example, a lot of riders indicated that they were concerned that the buses don't run late enough for them. However, it was found that that particular point did not really have a lot of influence over the whole, round rider experience. Whereas the things that are up here, safety. People generally feel that SARTA does well with safety, and it's important to them. The safety of SARTA really does impact your overall experience of using the service. So over here, the things that are up here in this quadrant are the things that have a big impact on the experience of riders, and also are on this end, so they're things that maybe didn't get the best performance scores from riders. So up here in this quadrant are the things that SARTA can do better on, and that will have a big impact on riders. And there's three things in that quadrant. People were concerned about the frequency of service on Saturdays. So they noticed that, hey, when I ride on Saturday, I only have so many options for getting to the bus, whereas on the weekday, there's good frequency. And so that is something that is in this quadrant, along with the on-time performance of buses and the frequency of service up until 10 p.m. So these are the things that SARTA would like to improve on because they know from the survey that they affect the overall rider experience the most. And I'm going to pause right now and ask if there are any questions. Are there any questions about what I just went over? Okay, we'll hand it over to Laura Brown.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Laura Brown. I work with Christy at RLS and Associates, and I'm a consultant that is was hired by SARTA to come and help with this study. We have been, as Christy said, working on this and talking with you all and surveying you all, and it's been quite a pleasure, and I'm happy to be here today to present our conclusions and a vision for the future and hear what you have to say about it. One of the things that Christy said is that we get a lot of key stakeholder interviews and discussions, and these are this is a list of some of the non-transportation provider stakeholders that we spoke with who who don't directly operate transportation, who gave us a perspective of transportation needs and gaps in services and demands from different communities and different viewpoints and for different populations. So we have that together with the survey results and the general survey results to kind of help us create a picture. And we heard things, for example, we talked with chambers of commerce. So we heard about what the business communities are looking for, what is going to build economic development in the area. We talked with the city of Alliance and the city of Massillon, for example, and Canton, all of them actually, that are here that have big plans for the future, for development, for not only businesses, but just making their downtowns more vibrant, more accessible, continuing to build more amenities for their citizens, and also the connectivity between these communities throughout Stark County, and needing to go beyond the boundaries of their community into Canton or into, from Alliance to Massillon, who knows, all over the place. So it started to create kind of a network and a picture of what the gaps are, where people need to go and can't, the challenges. Maybe they can get there, but there's this challenge or that one. So we compiled that into the report along with the survey data and the previous, I shouldn't have brought my computer, the previous studies, and some of the findings, just a snapshot of some of the things that we heard from the stakeholders are provided on this slide here. And basically, everyone we talked to is strongly in support of SARTA and feels that SARTA is a good, strong asset to this community, and is all on board with finding ways to integrate SARTA even more into the plans. And so that's the approach that this plan is taking, and of course that's the approach SARTA already has. People talked about having services that, in addition to the fixed route services and what you have now, having services that are more responsive. So kind of like an on-demand sort of thing, kind of like when you know about Uber, for example, those sorts of services that get deeper into communities was a concept. It's easy to say Uber Life because everybody in the world knows about Uber. So it gives kind of paints the picture for you. It doesn't have to be Uber that's doing it, but just something like that. Reduce travel time, getting people to and from outlying communities, as I said. Meeting the needs for the development of the Hall of Fame Village. That's going to be so huge, and it's going to bring so many people in to Stark County. And if they come to the airport, or if they want to park their car somewhere, they're going to want to know, they might want to get on the bus. They might want to find an alternative way to go instead of just parking and driving. And so this, how do we tie that all together and have the network there that they need? How do we improve connectivity between neighboring counties, the whole region? So there's a focus here on Stark County and what we do here, but there's also just outreach to the region and bringing people in and out and making it part of Northern Ohio. And of course, growth. Where is growth taking place? How can we anticipate it and be involved in the planning stages with transportation instead of the reactionary stages? Any questions about that? Stakeholder input. And thank you, as we said, many of you are here that we talked to, so thank you very much for your input. Yes?
On your stakeholder input, the chamber was speaking for the area businesses, I would assume, is that, but you didn't reach out directly to any area businesses,
Not every area business. We spoke with some. If they were brought up in conversation, for example, like with Ohio Needs Jobs, maybe brought up an employer, we may have reached out. We didn't reach out to every business. Yeah, so it's true. We spoke with the chambers to do that, and we did ask the chambers to kind of spread our survey to the businesses as well. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you seem to have a lot of getting ready for the home and village, getting ready for this, getting ready for that. But right now, people are kind of stuck because service quits at 10, third shift begins at 11,
Yeah.
second shift ends at 10:30 or 11, and
You're right.
they have to find a way home. Some people work, I know one woman walks 8 miles on a weekend on a Sunday when she's scheduled because there is no bus service. So,
You're right.
it's like if you're working with employers for employees, it doesn't seem like that's really where you're going. You're talking a lot about bringing the people in to see this, bringing the people in to do that for this activity and that activity. But in the meantime, the people who live in Canton need to be able to get to work and get home.
You are very right. Thank you very much for pointing that out. And we did also look at that, and that came through with the rider survey very loud and clear. One of the things that we saw from the rider survey in particular is that people depend on SARTA for everything. A lot of the people that ride, this is what they depend on it for getting to the grocery store, getting to work, getting everywhere. And so those hours of service and being able to get to the bus stop, and you'll see that in the goals, I hope. If not, please point it out. But you're right. And that's a very valid point. Something that she said is, you know, what I said is talking about the future and the goals, but what we also need to focus on is here and now, and what you all do every day to use SARTA. And SARTA does very much focus on that, and there are goals in the plan I'll talk about right now that hopefully will help address those issues of day-to-day getting where you need to go. So let me talk about those a little bit. Okay, so the first goal I want to talk about is building the local transportation network. So by saying that, local transportation network, we mean every mode of how you get there, on your feet, on your, on the bus, any way that you get there, and focusing on growth in Canton and the surrounding communities. So I put this goal first because it's a focus on Stark County and exactly what you said, the people that are here right now and need transportation. So one of the first goals, and unfortunately we don't have enough time to go into detail about everything, but I'll answer questions if I leave you hanging on anything, let me know. So the Route 117, does anybody here write about Route 117? Okay, good. So, and how often does it come?
Daily.
You ride daily, and it comes by every hour, right?
Yes.
It comes by every hour.
Okay. So what we talked about in the plan is increasing the frequency to every 30 minutes, so that instead of it coming by the bus stop every hour, it might come by every 30, twice as much, so you could get the bus more often. And as Christy said, increasing frequency is something that was important to a lot of the riders. Being able to get there faster, get where you want to go. That route also serves the Mercy Medical Center. It serves a lot of key destinations in the area, so increasing that frequency is going to help move people around a little bit more quickly. There's also the idea, now that one we're looking at local impact here. The other idea is express loops. So this would be a new service. A loop is like a circle. Think of it as a circle, and so the bus would go on a loop hitting, let's say, it's not specifically designed, but just for the sake of discussion, let's say it would hit Belgian Village, the airport, the Hall of Fame, some park and rides, some key areas in that, or key destinations in that loop. It would come by every 10 minutes. Okay? So very high frequency, really good for tourists. So this would be people that are coming in, tourists or visitors, or if you want to go to a restaurant or something, anything in that area. It's going to come by often. It would probably be with a smaller shuttle-like size vehicle instead of a bus, unless there's lots and lots of riders. Yeah, it'll come by every 10 minutes and every day on that loop. We also talked about microtransit in Jackson Township as well as other areas. Jackson Township is mentioned specifically because it came up from the stakeholders a lot as the future of some development for employment. But microtransit, are you familiar with that term? The trend in transportation is changing around the world. I know you're hearing about it, and there's more and more emphasis on using some smaller vehicles that are more kind of on demand or demand responsive in place of the fixed route buses when you don't have the density, the number of people getting on the bus in a certain area. So since Jackson Township is a little bit out, not as densely populated, at least not right now, and not as much demand, we looked at the option to put microtransit, more on-demand, smaller vehicle services there to help with employment, transportation, as well as other things. And the same thing would apply to other areas of the county. This is an expensive goal. So combined annual costs for this are $3.6 to $5.6 million for operating, and we would need 6 additional vehicles, which is another $1.6 million. Any questions? Okay, the next one is strengthening regional transit connections. So now regional transit connections. Now we did one, we talked about some big goals here for Stark County. How about connectivity outside, bringing people in and out of the county? We talked about adding feeder services to the express route, the Akron-Canton express route. And a feeder service would mean that there's a small vehicle that would go from the nearest bus stop where Route 81 stops, any of their stops, and it would feed into an employment and industrial area, an employer, a couple of different employers, or it could feed into park and ride lot, it could feed into a community. There are lots of possibilities there, but it helps people get to and from that bus stop through that kind of last mile stretch of getting to their destination. That one would cost an estimated $30,000 a year for the additional service. Costs are estimated now because it's still a goal, it's still in development. We talked about adding 3 hours to the Route 81 Express bus on Fridays and Saturdays. Because during the public input process, we heard that people would like to be able to stay out a little bit later, especially on maybe to stay here and camp a little bit later and enjoy the activities in the evening. To do that, $28,000 a year. We'll talk about the cost again, because we got fun stuff at the end, but just giving it to you now a little bit in pieces. We also talked about 30-minute frequencies on the Route 81 Express bus. The rest, that's twice as much. Frequency, it comes by more often. 228,000 plus additional buses needed to do it. So all in all, for that one, regional connectivity, we are talking about $287,000 a year plus buses, $1.1 million per bus. Any questions about that one? Okay, the next one, enhanced transportation service for SARTA and coordination partner agencies. And so these are directly related back to the comments and input we heard from you all about things that SARTA could do to improve its service and its quality of service to its passengers. We talked about having ride-alongs or companions to help individuals who are riding the bus now, but probably do need a little bit of extra assistance. Could benefit from having someone on the bus to help a little bit with guidance and direction, maybe just the experience of being on the bus and managing that whole process of being able to board a bus and get off at the right destination and so on. So at SARTA, we're able to put some trained companions, some trained ride-along people on the bus. That would go a long way to help, children who might be autistic, for example, and can ride the bus and do ride the bus, but probably would be safer if they had a companion. And that's just one example. We talked also about more free Fridays and free Saturdays. Yay. For bus riders. So we talked about having 26 free Fridays or Saturdays a year. So that's pretty good. The only way to make that happen is through partnerships. So we talked about where that funding could come from in the study, and that would be maybe opportunities for businesses or communities or probably communities to sponsor those free Fridays or free Saturdays. SARTA knows how much they typically make in fares on those days, and maybe it's an opportunity for a little partnership to sponsor those services. Travel training videos. SARTA is already working on this and development of training videos so more people can not be afraid to ride the bus. Most of you are probably bus riders, but there are a lot of people who don't know how to do it and their lives would be a lot better if they did. But it's just getting over that first step and knowing how to do it. So training videos out there to help people learn and to help you teach other people maybe to use it. Adding more bus shelters. We started with a plan to make up to 10 bus shelters a year over the next few years. That's big. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. Let me tell you. So adding bus shelters and they would prioritize it according to their plan. Improving accessibility for bicycles. We were talking earlier today, the bus comes by every hour. If you have your bike and both the bike racks, there are already 2 bikes on the bus, you have to wait a whole another hour for the next bus to come by, probably, or ride your bike wherever you were going. So improving accessibility for bicycles. If there's more frequency, then at least it's coming every 30 minutes, but also maybe more bikes bike racks that'll hold more bikes. So, also, okay, so combined all together, 215,000 to 250,000 in operating, plus $80,000 for the shelters, for 10 shelters. So it's about $8,000 in shelters. Any questions? Yeah. We also have a goal here focusing on alliance. So, in particular, the employees and employers in alliance, people needing to get there. We heard from the economic development people and hiring these jobs, people that SARTA routes come close to the where the employers are. Some of them are just a little too far off the route to make it convenient to walk or accessible to walk. So they'll look at adjusting the route so the stops are closer. Also look at opportunities for first, last mile transportation to the employer in alliance to these routes. So it's kind of like what I talked about with the shuttles, where you've got a small vehicle that can just get you from that nearest bus stop to your destination that might be a little too far to go. Yeah.
Will this include Berry Cheese, Louisville, Ohio? Where the Berry Cheese is 2 miles away from the last bus stop?
Yeah, a lot of these goals, that's a good question, and a lot of these goals, maybe all these goals, are going to require partnerships with communities and employers. We also talked about demand response shuttles for shift workers before and after the current hours of SARTA bus route transportation. We heard a lot of stories that sound kind of uncomfortable about people that get off of work, maybe 2 hours before the bus starts running in the morning and they have to sit there and wait, or the opposite, when they are going to work, they have to wait because there's no bus service to get them there, and it's cold outside or hot, they're uncomfortable. So, or at any rate, it's still, you worked all day, you don't want to wait. So we talked about the opportunity to build some shuttle services to work with employers to understand the demand for that and how to address that need with a demand response, meaning it only would go if we knew there was a ride. Somebody needed it. It wouldn't be a fixed cost. Annual cost combined $300,000 operating, $600,000 for small vehicles to align. The next one, enhanced service. Oh, it's a continuation actually for Alliance. Enhanced service to support employers and employees. And this one would be increasing frequency on the Route 139, either all day or during shift work, depending on what the demand estimate would be. And this is a benefit for Alliance and Canton because the increased service would increase opportunities for both communities. $457,000 operating per year, plus the purchase of buses. And of course, coordinating with the City of Massillon development efforts. City of Massillon has wonderful downtown development plans and a variety of different things that could happen. It's a open, lots of opportunity to do that, and SARTA wants to be a good partner to Massillon. So they have included that one. It's a vague goal because we don't know exactly what's needed yet, but definitely something to explore. And they estimated putting maybe 4 small vehicles, what we would estimate for that service, plus $300,000 to $400,000 a year for operating. Sunday service. So I know some of you here want to hear about Sunday service because I spoke with you earlier today. So Sunday service is always a challenge for transit systems because it's just not sure how it's going to go in terms of ridership and if it's going to be productive. SARTA has addressed a good approach to this to operate limited on-demand Sunday service. So that would mean you'd have to schedule it. You'd have to, even if it's that same day, but you'd have to call and request it when it's available. There wouldn't be a bus running on a schedule. And that way, the cars that are operating have passengers on them, or buses or shuttles that are operating have passengers on them and not running empty. There are a lot of different ways this could happen. One way would be to create brokerage, kind of a partnership with a variety of different providers. It could be human service agencies, senior centers that have vehicles. It could be private operators that have vehicles. It could be SARTA that has vehicles that is providing the service. And SARTA would be the lead for that brokerage. So it could be their provider, or it could be that they're just brokering. $500,000 a year is the estimated cost for implementing that level of Sunday service. Any questions? That's a lot.